What's going on, everybody? I'm Jeff St. Pierre, and this is episode 132 of the Adult Education Podcast. This week, I am speaking with singer-songwriter Leah Marie Mason. Thank you so much for checking out my show. If this is your first time joining the Adult Education Podcast, I hope that you like what you hear, and I hope that you stick with us. I would love it if you would subscribe to the show so you get updated for all future episodes. And also, if you wouldn't mind taking a second to leave a 5-star rating on whatever platform you're using, and feel free to share the show with your friends. Word of mouth is the best way to inspire new people to check it out. Today's conversation is one that I've had in the works for something like 6 or 7 months now. I'll be chatting with singer-songwriter Leah Marie Mason. Now, I first came across her because she's been writing and recording with Jason Reeves and his wife, Nelly, and I'm just such a fan of all of their work. Nelly, you might remember, was a guest on this show a couple of years ago when I did a 4-part series on the group The Chattahoochees. Jason actually made the music for this podcast. So the music you hear at the very beginning and at the very end was produced by Jason. I am so glad that I checked out Leah's work here because she's really incredible and I've become such a big fan. She's been releasing songs for the last couple of years. A couple of my favorites are Trust Fund Cowboy, which we talk about in this conversation. There's also Me or My Hometown and Honeydew and Hennessy. But on September 1st, Leah released a new track called Black Sheep. Now, this song was purposefully released at the start of National Suicide Prevention Month. Black Sheep is arguably her most vulnerable and grown-up song to date. It tackles her life's journey as she tried to fit in with all the different groups in high school, only to find that she didn't really fit in with any of them. She's got another song set to come out soon called Dissociative State of Mind that dives even further into her own mental health struggles. And you'll hear us talk about that song in this chat, though no release date has been announced for that one just yet. I feel very lucky that Leah felt comfortable enough with me to talk more about these struggles. The biggest compliment that I can ever get in this role as podcast host is to have my guests feel comfortable. In our conversation today, Leah opens up about her struggles more than she ever has before, and I just appreciate the fact that she was willing to do that. This has easily become my favorite conversation so far on this show. I hope that you enjoy it, and I also hope that you check out Leah Marie Mason's music.
I don't even fit in with the black sheep.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good. Thank you so much for joining me and giving me some of your day. I appreciate that.
Oh, yes, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
I was just texting with Nelly Reeves and asking her if she had any dirt on you for this conversation. And I'll be totally honest with you. Her one response was, she's a genius songwriter. That's the dirt. So.
Oh, she is like the sweetest person in the whole world. I love her so much. And she is so talented. Like, I love her.
The pair of them, Nelly and Jason, it's maddening how talented they both are together.
Yes, it's truly, honestly, when I'm in a room with them, I'm like, you guys honestly make me upset sometimes.
That's actually how I came across you, is I'm such a big fan of their work, and I've been a fan of theirs for years upon years, that they were posting about having you in the studio. And I was like, well, if they like her and they're working with her, she must be incredible. So I have to look this girl up. So I owe them a thank you for introducing me to your work.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
It is an absolute pleasure to meet you. I would like to learn more about your story, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Essentially, I've been singing since I was like a little kid.
Okay.
I was in a 70s rock band with my brother from like 10 to 12. And we played like festivals and like a bunch of like huge shows, honestly, around like North Carolina. So I did that for a few years and I loved it. And that's when I really knew I wanted to like perform and like do music forever. Like that was kind of like, okay, like I know no matter what, like I have to do this because this is the one thing that makes me like so happy.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about that, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I think that's amazing that you were in a 70s rock band at 10 years old, first of all.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. And everyone else was like 17.
Yeah.
So I was like the youngest out of everyone, but it was so fun. My dad was in a rock band when I was younger as well. So I listened to a lot of rock like growing up because of my dad. So I love that music. I was singing like Led Zeppelin at 11. So that's kind of crazy.
That's amazing. So music, obviously a big piece of your childhood growing up. As you said, your dad was in a band, always had music around. So that was just something that was with you all the time.
Yeah. And my brother is like so talented. Like he was kind of like a prodigy kid. Like he could like pick up any instrument and play and like do anything. He was just like crazy. So he like inspired me a lot too, to like work really hard. I had to like work harder at it. It came more naturally to him, but like seeing him like be so, good at something. And I was so inspired by that. So yeah, my brother definitely inspired me as well, for
What's
sure.
the age difference between you and your brother?
We're 3 years apart.
Okay.
So I just turned 24 and he's about to turn 27.
Was there like was there like an audition process for you to
Oh
join
yeah.
the
No,
band?
yes. So the singer had dropped out that was in it. And I begged my mom. I was like, Mom, please, like, please let me audition. Like, just let me. And she was like, oh, like, this is my brother's thing, you know? She was like, I don't want it to like overshadow his thing, you know, because it was like his thing that he was doing. But she finally caved and she was like, I guess you can audition, but you're young and I'm not sure, I don't know. Because at the time, my brother was the youngest one in it. And I was like, just let me audition. So she like videoed me. This is so embarrassing. She videoed me like I was singing like as I was walking down my childhood home like staircase. And I was like singing as I was like descending from the stairs. That's so embarrassing. But I got the part. So it worked out, I guess. I was never one for I was very dramatic. So but it worked out, I guess.
I love it. I've got a 7-year difference between my sister and I can't even fathom, like when she was 10 years old, I can't even fathom being 17 and having her do anything with me. Like I just
I
like, oh,
know.
my dorky little sister is going to follow me around. But here you are joining a band with your brother and his friends and his bandmates. Like, was there like a weirdness at all with that? Or did it just start right up and just fit right in?
Honestly, no, because me and my brother were very close as well. And I was also kind of always like more mature for my age, I guess. I did competitive cheerleading for a long time as
Okay.
well. And like, a lot of the girls were older than me. So like I was on like, you know, teams where I was like 12 and like everyone else was like 18. So like I was used to kind of like being around the older people. So it was fine, honestly. Like I got along with everyone. We're all friends. So it was honestly one of like the best times ever. I loved every second of it. So
And it inspired you to continue pursuing music as a career. So here you are, 12 years old, and you're like, that's it. Like, I've already found my thing. I've found my
yeah, I
passion.
was like, that's it. I'm good. I wish it was that simple actually, but there's more to the story.
Yes, please.
That ended up like kind of like ending and I was very passionate about competitive cheerleading at the time too. So I like kind of like took more to that and kind of went away from music for like a few years. Still like doing it, but not in the same capacity as I was
Mhm.
as like a kid. And then when I got to be like a sophomore, junior in high school, I was like, okay, like back on track to like the music thing because that's like what makes me happy. So I started really thinking about you know, what I wanted to do after high school. And I was performing in a duo my junior and senior year, like around where I lived. Like I was just playing like bars and kind of like shows like that. And I loved it. And I was like, I just have to do music. I have to do music. So I only applied to 2 schools because my parents said I had to go to school. I wanted to just move to Nashville, but my parents were like, "No, you're
Yeah.
going to school." So, I was like, "Okay, well, I'm going to music school, so whatever." So I only applied to Berklee College of Music and Belmont, and I ended up going to both. I went to Berklee my freshman year, and then I transferred to Belmont my sophomore year, and I graduated last August.
Wow.
Music school is a great thing for me. I was a songwriting major. I loved Berklee and Belmont. I got great experiences at both. But yeah, it's kind of crazy because I got my record deal and my publishing deal while I was still in college. So I was like working and a full-time student. So it was like kind of a lot, but it was worth it.
I want to say that that's got to be uncommon, but at the same time at Belmont, I imagine there are people that have that deal coming through, you know, getting record
I
deal,
mean, there's a lot
publishing
of
deals.
people, most of them drop out.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. But I was almost done, you know, I had like one more year left and I was like, I am just gonna finish,
Yeah.
even though it suck. I'm just gonna do it. Yeah, I don't regret it, but it was definitely hard. I remember I went to like a writing camp with Warner Chapel in like Vegas.
Mhm.
So like everyone's like staying up late, going out and all this stuff. And like in between sessions, I would have to like go to my room and like take a test and then like go back to my session. Like so embarrassing. I was like, yeah, guys, I'll be right down. Just give me like an hour. And then yeah. So it was definitely a grind,
Sure.
but it was good. It was good for me, I think.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's good to check that off the list. I mean, whether you use that degree in the end, that's a whole big question mark. You're very young. Who knows what's going to happen? But at the same time, like, you finished it. You accomplished something. Like, you finished
Yeah.
that goal and you've got that. Now you can move forward and try something else.
Yeah. And like I met a lot of people. Like
Yeah.
I had like really good experiences, like even outside of the school part. So no regrets, honestly.
Of course not. I think that's great. Berkeley's in my backyard. Well, originally I grew up north of Boston, so I'm very familiar with
Okay.
Berkeley. I haven't lived there in a long time, but I've known so many
Yeah.
people that have rolled through those doors. And I've actually known quite a few people that have started there and then moved on to somewhere else. And I'm
Yeah.
kind of curious, like for them, I know it wasn't like they hated Boston or they hated Berkeley. It was just like, you know what? It was time to try something different. And I feel like as a musician, that feeling comes up a lot. Like I feel like a Rolling Stone, if you will. Like I feel like musicians just roll to what the next thing is. Is that kind of what it was for you? Or you just like, I wanted to get down to Nashville? Like what was your reason for leaving?
Yeah, I feel like I love Boston. Like Boston was so much fun. I honestly like really loved like all my friends at Berkeley. Like I had an established life there. It was hard to leave,
Sure.
but I wanted to be in like a music city because Boston, it was mostly just Berkeley. And then I had a lot of my friends were commuting to New York every weekend to like play shows or like go to the
Sure.
studio or like do all that stuff. That's like not in Boston really. And I was like, I really just want to like start meeting people in the industry. Like, but you can't really at Berkeley like easily all the time. And I was like, I really think I should just like go to Nashville. Once again, brought up to my parents moving to Nashville, and they're like, you still have to go to school. And I was like, okay. So then I applied to Belmont and it ended up being like a great experience. Like, I'm really glad I went to Belmont. So many people in the industry in Nashville went to Belmont. So it's just like you automatically know like this whole like web of people. So yeah, it was awesome. But I would say nothing bad about Boston. Boston was so fun and I loved it. But Nashville is definitely more of like a music
Sure.
city, you know?
There is something different too, because I've talked to other artists from that like grew up, say, in Texas, and they talk about like the story you mentioned when you were in a duo playing bars in North Carolina. They'll talk about playing bars at 11 or 12 years old. And I think like growing up in the Boston area, that doesn't happen. Like people don't do that in that region.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting to me when I hear people like yourself talk about that being in high school, like playing bars as an artist. Like it just like, if you were younger and you wanted to go to a bar, you had to fight so hard just to get in, let alone be a performer at a bar. Like it's just wild to me.
Yeah, no, it's so funny because like I remember my first show ever that I played. I played at the Lincoln Theater in North Carolina, and there was like 200 people, and it was all like drunk adults that like love rock music. And my parents, brought me, and they're like so excited for me. And it's just like, I'm also lucky to have like supportive parents that were willing to take me to the bars and drive me to these places to be able to play, because not everyone has that. So I'm super lucky for that. It is a crazy thing to do when you're so young. I feel like to like, perform in bars and like do all that stuff. But it prepared me for
Sure.
what I do now because there's a lot of, crazy fans out there sometimes.
There certainly are. Where in North Carolina were you from, by the way?
I'm from Cary, so it's like a suburb of Raleigh.
Of Raleigh.
So like
Okay.
I lived like 15 minutes from Raleigh, yeah.
Yeah, I've driven through Raleigh before. My dad wanted me to go to North Carolina State. That was like his thing. I don't know why. He's a huge
Okay.
NC State fan for some reason. And he was like, you've got to go there. I'm like, maybe. We'll see.
Maybe. I mean, I had a lot of friends go to NC State, but I definitely going to a state school and doing that whole thing I knew was like not for me.
Sure.
I just like knew that I was not gonna go the normal college route at all. But
Well, it seems
yeah,
like you
my
made the right
journey-
decision.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. My journey was definitely not orthodox, but that's okay.
No, that's okay. And that's music. I mean, I feel like nobody's journey in music is really orthodox in any way.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
So you graduated. So what year did you graduate? 2022?
Yeah, 2022.
All right. So it's been a little over a year since you finished school. When you wrapped it up, I mean, did you just go right into the studio? Did you just hit the ground running as soon as you were done?
Oh yeah, I was like, thank God. I was like, because I mean, for a lot of people too, it's like, oh, like now I have to like figure out, out like work a job and then like also try and like get a publishing deal and grind and like do all that. But I kind of already had some things in
Yeah.
place. So like that made it a lot easier to just like be like, oh, like now I can just work, because I was already doing both. So I was like, I can really focus like all my time and all my energy into like writing and doing all that. So it was like kind of like sigh of relief, honestly. I was like, oh, I can just like work now and it's awesome. So yeah, I'm so grateful for like the life that I have. Like I get to do music every day. Like that's kind of crazy. So
That is
yeah.
awesome. And now that I'm thinking more about it, the fact that you went to school at Belmont and went to school in Nashville, there's a lot of people that will move to Nashville when they're young and just try to start fresh and just try to jump right in. And you're right, they have to work and they've got to balance all the different things that are going on to break in. You had sort of that security blanket of school there as well, where you were like,
Yeah.
you had that thing going on and you could still work and you could still, hone your craft and meet people and break through in the industry. But you had that school that you could always fall back on as a background. I think that's such an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think about that too. Like, yeah, having school made it, I feel like it was a good transition to like the working
Yeah.
part of like the music industry, I think, especially even just like, I don't know, and like being in Nashville too, like just like from the beginning, like made such a difference. So
We were talking about Nelly and Jason earlier. How'd you connect with them?
through Warner Chapel,
Okay.
actually, when I first signed my publishing deal, I did my own kind of like writing camp, and we like rented this cabin out in like Ashland City, like outside of Nashville, and I was just writing with different people every day, and it was honestly exhausting. I was like meeting like new people all the time, but it was cool. And Jason came one day, like Warner Chapel, like set up a session. I remember the first time we wrote, I was like, he gets me. I was like, he gets me. And he's so cool and awesome and weird in the best way possible. And, I hadn't even met Nelly yet. I had just worked with Jason at that point. And then I wrote with Nelly and Jason at his studio at his house. And the first song we ever wrote was Near My Hometown, which is like on my EP. And I was like, oh, they're like so insane and talented. And so, yeah, I work with Jason like every week now. Like we're like, he's like working on my whole project. So it's very exciting.
That's so great. So I want to learn a little bit more about a couple things in there because they're things that I've heard about forever being in the country music world, but I don't know if everybody really fully understands record deal, publishing deal. Like, let's talk a little bit about this because you have both. And I want to know more about like how those two are different, how you navigate that. Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So my record deal is through like a smaller company. It's called The Orchard. So it's like a subsidy of Sony. So like Sony owns the company, but like it's still like its own thing, But yeah, it's called The Orchard. They like do distribution, like they put out my music to like Spotify, Apple Music, like that kind of stuff. Just label services. And then publishing deal is like the writing side of it. So like that's like who I'm writing with, who gets like what percentage of what kind of thing. And they like collect your royalties and like take a percentage and then like give you a percentage. It's so complicated. The music business is the weirdest thing. And every time I explain it to people, they're like, that is so weird. Cause like also when you get paid, like you get paid a sum of money, but it's not like a regular job. Like it's kind of like a loan. Like you have to like recoup it and then you make more money. And it's like so weird. They're like, wait, so you don't just like get paid? I'm like, no, that's not how that works.
Yeah, I had friends in a band in the early 2000s, and I remember being on their tour bus at one point talking about all this stuff, and I was like, this is pretty great. You got a bus? And they're like, well, we're kind of paying it back. Like, they don't just give it to you.
Like,
we kind of have to pay.
This is like coming out of pocket. So.
Right. I also like the idea of like the writer's camp too, because I don't know if people fully understand how much effort it takes to be a songwriter. I mean, there are people that just write every single day and go to writers' rounds. What's a writer's camp like for you?
It was awesome, honestly, because I was just trying to meet people, honestly, because I just signed my publishing deal. So like I was just trying to meet as many like writers as possible. Right. With trying to like find my crew like in Nashville, because I had mostly just been writing with like the few like same people. And I was like, I just want to like really like dive into like the Nashville scene and like really like meet people here. So we like set up a studio in this cabin, like a like little makeshift cabin, got an engineer, and like basically we're making like demos like every day. Like I was like cutting every song that I wrote like every day. So they were long days, like for like a month. So it was like a lot, and writing camps can be a lot. And I'm just a smaller artist, like artists like Rihanna, like they like rent out entire studios and have like 10 producers in there, and she'll just go in like room to room and like see if she likes, and they're like waiting to see if she comes in and like likes it. And then like, that's like way crazier. I was just, a little small artist, like doing my own little camp, but it was still so much fun. Like I loved it, but it's a lot at one time.
I can only imagine. I mean, just the idea of people, I was talking to Tyler Rich a couple of weeks ago, and just the idea of like setting up writers rounds like every single day with people. I mean, not that much interesting stuff happens to me on a day-to-day basis that I'm going to walk into a writer's round and be like, hey, I've got a really great idea today.
I know, like it's weird, but sometimes things like happen to you that morning. I honestly have like just like, I mean, my notes are just like filled with like random, like even like words that I like, or like, just random things. I feel like I honestly, if you're like a creative minded person, I feel like it's never really like your well is never really dry.
Sure.
I feel like there's always like something. We're overly emotional and like mentally ill. So like, I'm like, there's always something to work off of, at least for me. I don't know.
With your writing, would you say your strength is more lyrics or music?
Definitely lyric driven person. I love like melodies too, like top lining and stuff, but I'm not the best. Like that's where Jason, like me and Jason work so well together too. I mean, he is amazing at everything, which is annoying, but like he's an incredible writer, like whatever, but his like guitar playing, like producing and like musicality in that way is so strong. And that's my like weak point. So I don't know. I think that's like part of the reason why we work super well together. And he's like a crazy lyricist as well. He's just good at everything.
So speaking of harmony and melody, we got to get into this song Black Sheep, because I feel like you've tapped into something with this song that gives me goosebumps every time I hear it. But before we get into that, I do want to talk to you about the song that was the first one that I heard of yours. That was Trust Fund Cowboy.
I think what attracted me so much to that is, again, I've been working in the country music world and the radio side of things for about 15 years or so now. And there are so many people that you hear a song that's, about tractors and big wheels on trucks or whatever. And I'm like, this person grew up in a gated community. They've never seen a tractor in their entire life. What are they singing about? And then Trust Fund Cowboy comes out. I'm like, this girl just nailed it. Like she hit this character of person that is out there. I think it's wild.
Yeah, I feel like what was so hard for me is I'm like, I write only from like personal experience. And I'm like, how can you write about something that is like just so foreign to you and then like put it out basically for like clout? I'm like kind of like, it was like so strange to me. And I would see these people all the time. And I was like, you know what? Someone's got to do it. And I will be the one to call all of these people out. So yeah, that was kind of my Nashville man revenge song,
So is there a particular experience that you went through that you want to share about here?
I mean, honestly, like it was so much, like, even like going to like it, like anywhere in Nashville, like going downtown, going to like anything. I'm like, these people are everywhere and it's crazy.
The reference to Yellowstone is perfect too, because I feel like that's what a lot of people are watching right now. And they feel like, well, now I'm a cowboy because I watched Yellowstone. So now I know.
Yeah. I'm like, no, you're not, but that's okay.
Yes.
It's okay that you're not, but you just don't pretend to be.
That's a great way to put it, because it's okay to be whoever you are. Like you're not calling somebody out as like, this is a terrible, just be you, like be your person. Don't pretend to be something else.
Yeah. I think, that's what was like annoying to me the most about it. I was like, embrace your individuality. Like, just don't try to be like every other guy here just because you think that's what you're supposed to do or whatever. I don't know. It was just a lot in my brain and I had to get it out. And there was a lot of lines that were way meaner that didn't make it in the song. So, that's like the PG version.
I'd love to see what made it to the cutting room floor for that one.
Yeah. No, I'll probably take those to the grave, honestly. But we were dying laughing when we were writing it. We were like, this is so funny. Like there was just never ending like things we could put in there. It was so fun.
Did you write that with Nelly and Jason? Because I feel like that screams them. Like I can see Nelly's work all over a song like that.
I actually wrote it with Jason and Claire Douglas.
Okay.
who her father's Tom Douglas. Like it's like totally like in her genes to be an amazing songwriter, and she is like absolutely insane. And she was like spitting out lyrics that were like crazy too. She's a phenomenal lyricist and songwriter. But yeah, just the three of us combined was dangerous because we were saying some crazy stuff.
I've always had an appreciation for songwriters, and one of the things that I had to really get over, my little ego for whatever reason, was that in country, a lot of people don't sing songs that they write. And I always thought that was so interesting because you'd hear an interview with an artist and they would be like, well, this song means so much to me. It's about my mom, yada, yada. But then you find out they never wrote it and the person who did has never met their mom. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Like that's kind of, so I had to get over the whole like judgy of people that don't write their own music. And I think there is such a special thing in Nashville people do share, but it creates situations like Trust Fund Cowboy where people will be out there on stage performing a song that they know nothing about, but like, hey, we recorded it in a studio.
Yeah,
We're good
I'm
to
like,
go.
you live in like a 30-acre mansion. Like, and you're
Right.
singing about being broke.
Right.
Like, it just like doesn't make any sense. But you know, I mean, that's the music industry anywhere too. I mean, people sing about experiences that they've never had all the time, I guess. But I don't know, just for me personally, certain things were rubbing me the wrong way. So
I love it. I love that you did that. I watched an interview with the singer for the Deftones. I believe his name is Chino. I don't know if you're familiar with them at all, but he was talking about their earlier stuff where everything that he wrote was very based in personal experience. And then by the time their third album came out, he was like, I don't know what else to write anymore. Like I've covered all of my personal experiences. And that's when they started to dive into different territory. And he was like, I realized I could write about anything that I want. It doesn't have to be a personal experience. And it was like a game changer for the band. So it's interesting. Like I appreciate someone like you that takes life and says, this is what I'm experiencing. This is going to be my song. But there probably is going to come a point where you're like, you know what? We're going to have to try something different.
yeah, probably. I'm really bad though. Like even like I write so much from like personal experience, and like I know what I want to say when it's like coming from me. I'm like I know exactly what I want to say. And that's I can even have a hard time like writing for other people just because I know exactly how I would feel about something and how I react to things, and like I know myself, but it can be hard for me to like gauge other people's, experiences and thoughts. I don't know. It's really hard to write for me when it's not coming from my personal experience. But I mean, not everyone is that way. So I don't know.
So Trust Fund Cowboy was the song that I got to know about you first. What would you say is the first song that really kind of introduced you to the world?
I mean, the first song that I ever put out was Far Boy, and that's what kind of like blew me up. I like blew up on TikTok. I think it got like 14 million views or
Ooh.
whatever. And I put that one out like completely like independently in like 2021, the beginning of 2021. That kind of like changed my life. I signed like a management deal, and like that kind of like propelled me into like the music industry, I would feel like I was nothing. I wasn't even like artist. Like I didn't have anything out. That was like my first thing that I ever did. Or at least like put on like Spotify and like, stuff like that. So that song introduced me to the world. I think that this new music is kind of shows like my growth from it, and like who I've become as a songwriter and an artist. Like I'll always be grateful for that song for like, putting my feet in the water, but also I've grown so much since then. Like I'm literally not even that person anymore. So I think Black Sheep and Dissociative State of Mind really show like me as an artist and like who I've become. So that's been a special thing for me.
Yeah, even from like Trust Fund to Honeydew and Hennessy EP to Black Sheep and Dissociative State of, I mean, even that, it's like every 6 months it feels like something comes out. Even in that period of time, you can hear the growth in your music too. I just think it's great to see how you keep sort of developing more and more what your voice is going to be.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like that's taken some time because I was like thrown into the industry kind of like quickly after that. I don't think I fully had like even myself figured out at that time, but I feel very like sure of myself now, and I know exactly what I want to say and exactly who I want to be. And I'm sure that might change in 5 years, but for right now, I feel very like confident in like what I want to say, and I mean much more confident than I was like even like a year ago, 2 years ago. So
Yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
should change in 5 years because you're what, like 23-ish? So, I mean, 5
Yeah,
years from now,
24, just turned 24.
oh, congratulations. Happy birthday. I mean, 5 years from now, you're going to be 29. That's going to be a whole different life and a whole different world. So yeah, your voice is going to keep changing as you grow. It's just
Yeah.
natural.
Yeah, which like is a beautiful thing, I think.
Yeah.
Like I love hearing like myself, like I love hearing artists, you know, evolve and grow and change. And with the music, I think it's a beautiful thing. So
I agree. All right. So Black Sheep and Dissociative State of Mind, as much as we were talking about how you've grown with your music, these songs do sort of feel like they've got a different feel, like a little bit of a deeper feel to them. So tell me about where these came from.
yeah, so with Black Sheep, in high school, I felt very like isolated. I tried to be a part of like every social group. You know, I was like a popular kid, tried to be a stoner, then tried to be a theater kid. Like I truly like tried every social circle in my school. And I still felt like I never quite, you know, fit in anywhere. I was like, I just feel, why do I feel like such an outsider in like everything? I'm like, I just feel like I don't fully fit in with people. I went to Berkeley my freshman year and I was like, okay, well, this is it. Like, I'll find my people here. Like, this is like all musicians and artists and people who like want to do the same thing I do. So this will be great and awesome. And then like, I still felt like I didn't feel like I wasn't like even like weird enough or like interesting enough for like Berkeley. And like it was like such, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, I really like will never fit in fully anywhere. I was like, this is so crazy. And so that's kind of where that line, like I don't even fit in with the Black Sheep. Like, you know, I literally went to like a different state, a different school to like try and find my people. And I still felt like an outsider, which sucks. And so, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to that though, like not fully fitting into like social circles and like trying to like find yourself in multiple different facets, and like it just like feels like a never ending like trial and error run. But yeah, I mean that was like a really hard time in my life, and I kind of felt like, you know, I'm like, where do I belong? Like
Yeah.
nowhere. It kind of is sad. So yeah, that's how that song kind of came to be, I guess.
I kind of feel I had a similar experience in a way that I was friendly with just about everybody in high school. But when it came down to it, because I was friendly with everybody, I didn't have a lot of the same really strong bonds with anyone. Like I was just,
Yeah.
I was cool to hang with whatever group and whatever clique was around, but those
Yeah.
cliques weren't all calling me on the weekend to hang out. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it was a very different vibe. So yeah, like in a similar way, I feel like I had a very same experience as you in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that like that's kind of how I was too. Or like even when I like would go and like, you know, on a deeper level with these people, I was like, oh, like I don't think we're like connecting.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just I don't know. And that can be frustrating to like not feel like you fit in everywhere. I don't know. But I feel like it's super relatable, and you know, I wrote it from personal experience, but I hope if it can even help or make someone feel validated, just like one person, then like that's worth it to me.
This song, Black Sheep, came out on September 1st, so just in time for the start of National Suicide Prevention Month. Was this a planned decision? Was this on purpose?
Yeah, I had talked to my management. I was like, this is something, you know, that's really important to me. I went through a really hard time when I was a junior in high school. I didn't go to school for like 7 months, like rough time in my life. More goes with dissociative, but yeah, purposeful. I just want to like spread awareness and like have that be part of my message. And like I haven't really been very outspoken about that because it makes me uncomfortable. But like I know how important it is, and like after I write these songs and people like, you know, Nelly and Jason, they're like, this is an important message. Like you like this will help people. Like you should talk about it. So this is me going out of my comfort zone, you know, talking about it. And like I said, like if I can even help like one person, like
Yeah.
I needed me. So if I can be that person for someone else, then that's all that matters really.
I think it's really important. I had my own dark time freshman, sophomore year of high school, and it wasn't talked about the same way that it is now. So I'm glad to see that it's changed over the last few decades, which
Yeah.
is also weird to say that high school was a few decades ago. But it's great to see how much it's changed and that people are more willing to talk about it. But we still need more people like yourself to share that story and to talk about it and make people feel like they're not alone.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like as much of like a sad song as it is, I feel like that's so many of my favorite songs that are, I guess, sad actually like gave me hope
Mm.
because it's like, oh, I'm not like the only person in the world that feels this way. Like it's comforting to know that you're not alone in a feeling that can feel so isolating, you know?
Yep.
It's like, oh my God, someone else has felt that way. That makes me feel like better and in a weird way, you know?
So dissociative state of mind, which by the way, I believe is the first time that dissociative has ever been used in a song related to country music in any way, shape or form. So congratulations to that.
I'm sure.
That one too, the harmonies and the melodies that you put together, it just takes you on such a journey.
And I know this song isn't out for the public yet, but your management was kind enough to share it with me. So I guess we're sort of teasing the audience right now because they can't hear it. But I really do love this song so much.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite songs I've ever written. Yeah, Dissociative, that is about that crazy time when I was like a junior in high school. I didn't go to school for like months. My mom would like drive me to, I was having like major anxiety. Like I was feeling like I was having like a panic attack, like constantly, like a never ending one. And I've had panic attacks my whole life, like since I was like in kindergarten. It's just like a chemical imbalance in my brain, and I've always had it. And, you know, I would manage them like, okay, like I knew it was coming and like I could kind of like know it would last like X amount of time and like be okay with it. But I feel like, I don't know, I let it get to a point where it was like unmanageable. And
Mm.
then I literally couldn't leave my house. Like it was terrible. And I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. I wasn't leaving my house. I was like really struggling. And I was like up all night, like on WebMD and like everything. I was like, why do I feel like I'm not in my body? Why do I feel like
Mm.
I'm, because, and it's actually like your body's coping mechanism if you're like feeling like so anxious to like kind of like take you away from like yourself, but it can actually like scare you even more. So I'm like, thanks, brain, that's awesome. But yeah, it's basically, and it's called like dissociative identity disorder or
Mm.
something. And that was the first time I had ever heard of it. And I was like, okay, like interesting. I need to like use that word somewhere because I had never like really heard it before or whatever. But yeah, that song was another like kind of like fell out with, I was working with Jason and I was like, listen, I went through this like traumatizing time and I need to write about it because and sometimes like I think about it a lot too, especially when I'm having more and like I'm in a period of life where I'm like going through like more anxiety. I have like a fear, like I literally have like PTSD of like going back
Mm.
to that like time, and I'm like so afraid that that's gonna happen like again. So that's kind of how Dissociative State of Mind was born. It's like true, everything, every line and every lyric is 100% true. So
What do you do to keep yourself from getting there? I mean, if you have those thoughts, if you have that fear, you must have a coping mechanism. So what is that mechanism
yeah,
for you?
yeah, I feel like I'm lucky, like I have like a strong support system. Like I have my parents, I have like an amazing boyfriend, and I have like really good friends. So I feel like knowing that I have people that are there to support me and like be there for me through that, like if it were to happen again, is like honestly like a comforting feeling to kind of like take myself a step back and be like, okay, like it won't be so scary. Like you'll have like, you know, and that can be like just a calming feeling, and like then like in turn make it like not happen, because like a panic attack like so much of the time happens because you're scared of having the panic attack, so then like you have a panic attack. But if you get, which is so weird, but if I can like, you know, think like positively, ground myself, I journal a lot. I'll make like little like self journaling videos too. Like I'll, this is so weird, but I'll like video myself and like talk to myself for like a few minutes just to like get it all out and like work out things out loud. And that helps me a lot. You know, honestly, like this sounds so cliche, but literally going for a walk
Yeah.
like helps so much actually. Like just doing something physically active too, like to like get away from the racing thoughts, because it's so crazy like how your brain can work against you. I'm
Yeah.
like, don't you want the best for me? Why are you doing this to me? um, but I don't know. It's just I feel like anything to kind of get away from the intrusive thoughts, like anything to like keep your mind busy on something else, has helped me and like continues to help me. So
And
yeah, I think like that.
you don't have to talk about this if you don't want to, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. I know in your songs you talk about going to therapy. Over the years, were you able to nail down some reason as to why you started to have all those troubles? I think you said it was your junior year of high school. Were you able to nail down
Yeah.
why that was giving you so much stress and so much anxiety?
The first reason why it like got so bad is because I already like naturally have like panic attacks and anxiety. I mean, there was no reason really for me to like have a panic disorder in like kindergarten. Like, you know,
Sure.
I was like had like a great life. My parents are together. Like I wasn't in like a toxic household or anything. Like I didn't have anything bad going on like necessarily to like make me have that level of like anxiety. So I definitely already had like some internal like underlying just mental illness. And then I was also in the middle of kind of like losing like friendships and like going through a lot of like personal things that I think just all of that combined, like the way that would affect like someone that didn't have anxiety or like panic disorder, it was probably wouldn't be so dramatic probably. But because like I already had this like, you know, thing not wrong with me, but
No,
you know,
I know what you're saying.
thing
Yeah.
about me, it just made me, it kind of like tipped me over like an edge, and it was really hard to like scale that edge back up, and it seemed like so daunting at times. Like I remember like after like 6 months had gone by, I was like, I can't do this forever. I was like, there's no way I can live like this forever. Like it was like scary. I was like, there's like, and I didn't know how or if it would like ever like get better. But with like medicine and like you know, therapy, support, all that stuff, like I eventually like slowly but surely
Sure.
got like a little bit better and a little bit better. I mean, I couldn't leave my house, so like I can leave my house now, which is like definitely good. But yeah, I mean, it was a really scary time. Like I it was really scary. And so that song, it means a lot to me because I don't really like talk about it. I remember even like people at school, like in my classes, like I wouldn't go for like weeks, obviously, because I was going through a really hard time. And they'd be like, "Where were you?" And I was like, "I'm sick." Like really sick, you know. I like didn't want to talk about it. Because even at the time I feel like mental health was like a little bit taboo or something, even though it was still like better. I feel like even in like 2018, it was still like not as openly talked about, at least like where I was from, really. So I kind of like kept it to myself and was like embarrassed, honestly, by it. So um I want the song to like open a conversation, I feel like, and I want my fans and like people that listen to the song like comfortable enough to like talk to me about like this kind of stuff or like open up about like these kinds of things, because this is like a huge part of my life
Yeah.
that I went through that like a lot of people don't even know about. And I know that it can help people, and I know that this would have helped me. So like that's why it's so important, I feel like.
Well, I love that you're sharing it. I also love that you feel comfortable enough talking to me, even though we've known each other for about 45 minutes now, because I know when I was trying to set up this interview, going through your management, they brought that up that you wanted to, had these songs coming out that you wanted to talk about. And I was like, well, this is great because so many people hold these stories in. They may write a song about it, but they still aren't really comfortable sharing their story. So I love that you're even willing to share the story and that you're willing to make sure people understand that there is a way out, to a lot of these situations.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I want people to feel, heard, validated. Because I remember like looking up YouTube videos of like to see like other people going through it. And it literally was like a sense of comfort to like hear these people talking about their experiences to me. And I was like, oh, like I'm not, because I thought I was like going crazy. I was like, I'm in a psychosis, I was like, I'm crazy. I was like, something's really wrong with me. And then I was like hearing all these people like talk about like their stories and, they're like, similar situations as to what I was going through. And I was like, honestly felt such a sense of comfort. I was like, oh, I'm not crazy. Like it's like, things can get better. It was like a hopeful feeling to hear these people's stories. So I hope that this can do that for someone else.
I hope that for you too. Dissociative State of Mind is out. So is the song Black Sheep. I mean, I feel like even though you just dropped this new music, I have to ask the question, what's the future look like for Leah Marie Mason?
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on a full record, so that's exciting. I'm not sure when that will be out yet, but I'm working on it. I'm writing every day. And I think it's some of the best music I've ever made and written, and I'm so excited for people to hear it. So yeah, that's kind of what the future holds.
Well, I love it. I'm such a fan of yours. I'm so overjoyed that you took some time out of your day to chat with me because I've been following your career, which feels like forever, but it's only been about a year or so since I was first introduced to your music. And I love to watch you grow and watch all this new stuff come out. So I'm excited for you, Leah. I think there's a really bright future ahead of you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you saying that.
Big thank you to Leah Marie Mason for her time. Just a phenomenal person, phenomenal singer, songwriter. I actually texted our mutual friend Nelly Reeves before doing the conversation. I said, hey, I'm chatting with Leah Marie Mason today. Can you give me any dirt on her? And Nelly's text back to me just said, Leah is a phenomenal songwriter. That's the dirt. That's it. She's just incredible. And I think that is so true. So please check out her music, especially the new song Black Sheep. And thank you to all of you that have stuck through this entire episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And until next time, be well.